Have you ever noticed how so many of us go through life hoping and often actively seeking out people or things that are going to tell us what to do with our lives? What's the meaning of life? Should I make this choice or that choice? How should I approach this challenge? What's the solution? Where do I go? What do I do? It's actually a really funny design, because at the end of the day, it's as if we're looking for someone who has an instruction manual for life, someone who's going to tell us that these are the things you need to do in order to have a blank kind of experience or life. And the reality is that there is no instruction manual. No one knows what the hell they're doing. And it's that experience, that feeling of like not knowing what we're doing, not knowing why we're here, not knowing anything, that I think drives a lot of people to seek out answers. We see a lot of gurus with a lot of followers. There's religions, there's people who find their calling or their purpose maybe in their field of work, and they give themselves that particular meaning. But generally speaking, we're more than happy to be followers. We're more than happy to just kind of get in line behind everyone else and chug along, because in one way, it means that we don't really have to make the choices, so that if things go wrong, we can point fingers at someone else and say, oh, well, they took me there, it's their fault. And we can say, well, I didn't choose the direction, they chose the direction, they led me wrong, they led me astray. Obviously, the reality is that we are each responsible for our own choices. We're each responsible for placing ourselves in positions where we choose to follow someone else, and we still are making choices every single time we continue to choose to follow whoever or whatever we're following. So that abdication of responsibility is not real, but it's a little mind game, a little trick that we like to play to make ourselves feel like we are absolved of all sins. We're not actually to blame, someone else is to blame. And it's a pretty spiteful game, but it's a pretty popular one in a lot of different areas of life. Spirituality is another very interesting. Chewy, what do you want? There he is, the noisemaker. So spirituality is another very interesting design that people like to seek answers within, where the belief is that there are things, greater things. There's more to this life than what meets the eye. There's things happening behind the scenes. There are like looking for answers in communicating with the dead and having the dead tell us what to do, or in communicating with our dreams and having our dreams tell us what choice to make, communicating with our past selves, to have our past selves tell us what to do, or our spirit guides. We're looking for all of these things to tell us what to do and how to live, because we don't actually want to make the choice ourselves. Because, yeah, okay, sure, life is filled with pretty difficult choices, and life is filled with making mistakes that often we regret. And a lot of the time we're just trying to avoid that. We're just trying to make better choices to get to a place where we actually want to be. But the path to making better choices is not in looking for someone to tell us what to do and how to live and what choice to make. It's in actually practicing what does it mean to make a good choice? How does that process look compared to how I've made choices in the past? Because I know that when I've made choices when I was emotional, when I was in an extreme high or an extreme low in terms of my emotional state, if I was rushing, if I was not wanting to consider all factors, so if I was deliberately blocking out certain things that might actually be important things to consider, all of those ways that I've made decisions in the past, I ended up regretting. I ended up regretting the decisions I made because I missed things. I made decisions that I realized, actually, this is not what I wanted. Or if I had spent a little bit more time investigating or taking more things into consideration, I would have ended up at a choice that I would have been happier with. So the path to making better choices is, if we just go off of that as an example, don't make choices when you're emotional, whether it's a high or a low. High can be just as destructive as low emotional state. Don't rush into choices. And take your time to consider everything and be open to considering everything. Now, obviously, life isn't always that simple, and we don't always have the time to really deliberate our choices. We don't always have the time to sit and look at every single thing that we could do. But a lot of the time, we make ourselves think that there is no time, when in fact, we're the ones who are rushing within us. We're the ones who are trying to make this choice fast, when what we should be doing is slowing down. And if we were to take a step back, we could see, oh, there actually is no rush. Let me rather take the time to consider everything carefully, make sure that I've covered all my bases. So, bottom line is, when you actually are pressed for time, do the best you can with what you have. That's all we can do. And the rest of the time, make sure that it's not you who's creating that time pressure, that rush experience. Because I know that's what I do. I tell myself I don't have time. I don't have time. I need to do this right now. I don't have time. I can't wait. There's no time for waiting. There's no time for investigating. I must make this choice right now. It doesn't really work out so well, though. So the answers are as simple as that. The solutions basically do the opposite of what we have been doing, the things that keep leading us to bad results. And then on the other hand, I also know that you get people who end up taking too much time to make a choice and essentially paralyze themselves when it comes to making choices. When at the end of the day, we're never going to know what's the right choice to make, what's the right, what's the wrong one. There is no right and wrong. It's just choice, action, consequence, action, reaction. We do something, something else happens. And whether we are willing to live with that reaction or that consequences, that's for us to decide. So in those states when I get paralyzed, incapacitated, unable to make a choice, usually what I do, if I have covered all my other bases and I know that, okay, I've done everything I can to make the best choice possible with what I have, what I know here and now, I force myself to just do it. It's like jumping into a freezing cold pool. You just close your eyes and jump and see what happens. And hopefully it's the kind of situation where you can change your mind later on. Because this is not a perfect world. We're not perfect. You're not going to know everything in advance. Even if you prepare yourself in every single way possible and make a choice, there still may be things that you hadn't taken into consideration. There still may be things that you were missing. And we've just got to make peace with, we did the best that we could at that time, with what we had, what we knew, who we were in that moment. And learn from what happens afterwards. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any particular choice-related experiences you'd like to share, or if there's something you're struggling with, drop me a message, do a video, write a comment, whatever. You're going to see me next time.